The program you're about to see is made possible through the financial support of people like you. We hope you'll join the thousands of people who make our programming possible. Become an In the Life member by clicking on the Donate Now button on our website.
We've heard your stories on the campaign trail.
In 2008, President Barack Obama secured the LGBT vote, promising full equality for the community. 2 years later, the promises remain.
You will see a time in which we put a stop to discrimination against gays and lesbians.
But full legislative change on the Defense of Marriage Act, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell has not been achieved. Many are critical of the pace of change.
When they accept the minimal change and the crumbs, what they're actually doing is simply barely feeding a person who's already starving from injustice.
Tonight on In the Life, we ask whether the man in the White House is an advocate for gay rights. And service members talk to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand about Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
By the end of this year, we'll repeal the policy.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
When President Obama was first elected, there were a lot of different emotions and reactions that many of us had. One, we had just been through 8 really, really bad years where we had an administration that just didn't like us and did really a lot of damage to all LGBT people and a lot of other people.
We gather because we have chosen hope over fear, unity of purpose over conflict and discord.
I finally had a renewed sense in the political system that I'd always dreamed would reflect my values.
In my first few years in the House of Representatives, we were part of the minority party. For 8 years, we were fighting defensive battles, one after another.
The only things that George Bush did during the course of his presidency with regard to LGBT people was to twice, not once, but twice, try to write discrimination against us into the Constitution in the form of the Federal Marriage Amendment. So we had a clear enemy.
There's been a real sea change with President Obama in the White House to have a president who is an ally on these issues, who we can be confident will sign quality bills that Congress can pass.
I actually believed that Obama's election was going to change everything for our community. I believed he was going to be a fierce advocate.
I've called on Congress to repeal the so-called Defense of Marriage Act to help end discrimination. I'm also urging Congress to pass the Domestic Partners Benefits and Obligations Act, which will guarantee the full range of benefits, including health care, to LGBT couples and their children. My administration is also working hard to pass an employee non-discrimination bill and hate crimes bill, and we're making progress on both fronts. Finally, I want to say a word about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I believe Don't Ask, Don't Tell doesn't contribute to our national security. In fact, I believe preventing patriotic Americans from serving their country weakens our national security.
I don't think Obama's gay campaign promises have been broken. I think they're limping badly. I think the president isn't very interested in gay issues.
We've seen this administration bring the country back from the edge of economic disaster and fight 2 wars and pass a health care bill and deal with the crisis in the Gulf. But none of those things are any sort of an excuse for not advancing an LGBT agenda.
I would love to be able to take care of the environmental issues that plague the United States and be on the beaches helping to clean up my community and my former home. But I feel like what I have to do first is give dignity and integrity to my family.
There is this misnomer that a president can only get a finite number of things done or work on a finite number of things at one time. I totally reject that notion.
I think there's this misconception out there that the president can just wave a wand and things happen. We get the frustration, the pace of progress, but considering the challenges of Washington, I think this president has done an incredible job of trying to move the ball forward.
You know, this has been a very difficult year, and a lot of people out there are having a very, very tough time. Today I'm proud to issue a presidential memorandum that paves the way for long overdue progress in our nation's pursuit of equality.
This administration has really been extraordinary in some ways that haven't gotten as much public notice. The president signed 2 presidential memorandums relating to extending to same-sex partners or domestic partners of federal employees as many of the benefits of employment as married spouses of federal employees get.
I want to thank Representative Tammy Baldwin, who's behind me somewhere. There she is, right there. For her tireless leadership on this bill and in the broader struggle for equality.
I would like to see a faster pace of change. On the other hand, I deal with the pragmatism and reality of working in this institution. My job is to try to nudge, cajole, persuade, and push the agenda forward as fast as I possibly can, and obviously I need the help from many allies.
The president serves in the most powerful position in the United States, as well as, being the commander-in-chief. And we forget his power of influence, and that when he calls, people listen. So not only do our national organizations listen and come running, but our politicians come running and listening when he calls, and they also are influenced by his call to take action and actually follow through on legislation that he's deeming as important or he wants to see some type of progress on.
With an annual budget of more than $30 million, the Human Rights Campaign, or HRC, is America's largest civil rights organization working to achieve lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender equality.
We are honored to have President Barack Obama.
I can understand that for a lot of people out there in the community, it creates an even added layer of frustration because they look to us, they look to other leaders in the movement, they look to our access and our influence and our relationship with the White House, and they think that we should be more critical or that we should be employing different tactics.
You're making me blush. I love you back.
So it becomes much more complicated in terms of, when we criticize, when we don't, when we use a carrot, when we use a stick.
I think a lot of people, myself included, have been critical of HRC because the growing impression is that they exist to defend the president and not to defend gay people.
Equal rights! Now!
In response to the growing frustration towards the Obama administration and organizations such as HRC, new LGBT rights groups are using aggressive tactics to push for full equality. Get Equal is one of them.
President Obama, either you lead on civil rights or get the hell out of the White House.
We're willing to take action, and it may be non-traditional action. We're tired of the lobbying and the phone banking and the letter writing that doesn't seem to be getting the progress and the rights that we are deserving of. And many of our members have tried that method. And I think that what's going on with the national organizations is the understanding that they are serving in the suites of power, but the streets of activism are tired and fed up.
I deserve full equality! I am somebody!
There are some elements of civil disobedience that need to happen and need to be included in a direct action program. And what we do is we dramatize a situation to the point where they see an Arabic linguist getting kicked out in a time of war.
I'm an Iraq combat veteran, and most importantly, I am not staying silent anymore.
I think it takes multiple layers to move an agenda forward.
Here in just a few minutes, we're going to walk in, and we're actually doing a peaceful sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office to demand the Employment Non-Discrimination Act come to the floor for a vote immediately.
If people criticize us and this administration, that's fine, but be fair about it. What have we done? Have we done hate crimes? Have we done hospital visitation? Are we supportive of ENDA? Are we supportive of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell?
And I'm telling you, the military is not a social experiment.
There's a lot of other people out there who necessarily don't want us to achieve these things, and I think sometimes that needs to be the target, not necessarily the frustration at the president.
The people that try to offer that change is coming and, we're seeing progress are happy with minimal change and crumbs, in my opinion. Even at the national dinner for the Human Rights Campaign, he made the statement that, we're friends, aren't we?
I greatly appreciate the support I've received from many in this room. I also appreciate that many of you don't believe progress has come fast enough. I want to be honest about that. Because it's important to be honest among friends.
I'm not asking him to do something that he didn't let come out of his own lips. I'm wanting him to be held accountable on the things that he's already promised us. And that same accountability goes to the Human Rights Campaign and the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force and anyone who walks into a meeting with him. When they accept the minimal change and the crumbs, what they're actually doing is simply barely feeding a person who's already starving from injustice.
I think they kind of think that they've sort of met their gay quota because they did hate crimes.
There you go. All right.